I had stopped counting the days since her world burned. There was no point anymore. Her planet was gone. Her people were gone. Everything she had ever loved had turned to ash and dust, scattered across the cold emptiness of space. She was the last, the only one left, and some days she wondered why she had survived at all. She arrived on Earth the same way all refugees did. A cargo ship carried her across the galaxy, packed tight with 40 other survivors from different worlds. They sat in silence for most of the journey. No one spoke. No one cried. They had already done all their crying. Now there was only emptiness. The ship landed at Sol Station 7 on a gray morning. Human workers in uniform scanned their bodies and checked their documents. They asked questions in flat voices and typed answers into machines. I answered everything they asked. Yes, she was alone. No, she had no family. No, she had nowhere to go. The humans nodded and gave her a card with a number on it. That number was her new identity. She was no longer a caretaker of younglings, beloved teacher of the children. She was just Refugee 7834. They sent her to District 14. This was the alien quarter, a part of Sol where beings from many dead worlds lived together. The buildings were old and gray. The streets were narrow and dirty. The air smelled like chemicals and sadness. I walked to her assigned housing unit and opened the door. Inside was a small room with a sleeping mat, a tiny kitchen, and a window that looked out at a concrete wall. She stood in the middle of that room for a long time. She did not cry. She had no tears left. They had been special among the galaxy's peoples. They were healers, empaths. They could feel the emotions of others as clearly as they felt their own. When someone was in pain, I could sense it. They could reach out with their minds and soothe that pain, calm that fear, heal that wound. On her, I had been a caretaker. She had raised hundreds of children over her lifetime. She had held them when they cried. She had taught them to walk, to speak, to love. She had been needed. She had been valued. She had been loved. Now she was nothing, just another refugee with strange skills that no one wanted. Her body was different from humans. She had pale blue scales instead of skin. She had 4 arms instead of 2. Her eyes were large and silver and they glowed faintly in the dark. When humans looked at her, she could feel their emotions, fear, distrust, sometimes disgust. They did not hate her exactly. They were just tired. 3 years of alien refugees had come to Earth and the humans were exhausted from helping. Their resources were stretched thin. Their patience was gone. I found work at a recycling plant on the edge of the city. The job was simple. She sorted materials with her 4 arms, separating metal from plastic from glass. The work was fast and mechanical. She did not need to think. She did not need to feel. She just moved her hands again and again, hour after hour, day after day. The other workers did not speak to her. She did not speak to them. At lunch, she sat alone in a corner and ate the nutrient paste that the plant provided. It tasted like nothing. Everything tasted like nothing now. At night, she walked home through the dark streets of District 14. She passed other aliens, beings from worlds she had never seen. Some nodded at her. Most looked away. Everyone here was carrying their own pain, their own memories, their own ghosts. There was no room to carry anyone else's burden. Her apartment was always cold. She had a heater, but she rarely used it. What was the point of being warm? She would lie on her sleeping mat and stare at the ceiling. Sometimes she would close her eyes and try to remember the faces of the children she had cared for. Little, who had been afraid of the dark. Sweet, who had loved to sing. Brave young, who had dreamed of becoming a healer like her. They were all gone now, all dead, burned away when the enemy ships came. I had escaped because she was not home that day. She had been visiting another city when the attack started. She had watched from a hilltop as fire rained from the sky. She had screamed until her voice broke. She had tried to run back to save someone, anyone, but there was nothing left to save. Now on Earth, she carried that memory like a stone in her chest. It never got lighter. It never went away. The humans here were not cruel to her. They gave her food and shelter. They let her work and earn money, but they did not see her. Not really. To them, she was just another problem to manage, another mouth to feed, another body to house. She was not a person. She was a number on a card. Sometimes, late at night, I would think about the future. She would try to imagine what her life might become. Would she work at the recycling plant forever? Would she grow old in this tiny room, alone and forgotten? Would anyone notice when she finally stopped waking up? She had decided, quietly and without drama, that she would not live much longer. There was no anger in this decision, no sadness, just acceptance. She had no purpose here. No one needed her. No one wanted her. She was simply taking up space, breathing air, existing without meaning. She was waiting to fade away. Some mornings she would stand at her window and watch the sun rise over the city. The light would paint the gray buildings gold for a few minutes. It was almost beautiful, almost enough to make her feel something. But then the light would fade, and the gray would return, and it would turn away and prepare for another empty day. She did not know that everything was about to change. She did not know that fate was walking toward her on small human feet. She did not know that in just a few days, a little girl would look up at her with dark eyes and ask a question that would break her heart wide open. She only knew that she was tired, so very tired. And she was ready to rest forever. But the universe had other plans. It always does. It happened on a Thursday. I would remember that day for the rest of her life. She would tell the story many times in the years to come. It always started the same way. It was a Thursday. It was raining. And she heard a sound that changed everything. The rain started just as she left the recycling plant. It came suddenly, as rain often does in Seoul. One moment the sky was gray and quiet. The next moment, water was falling in thick sheets, pounding against the streets and buildings. Most people ran for cover. They ducked under awnings and into doorways, waiting for the storm to pass. I kept walking. The rain did not bother her. Her scales protected her from the cold, and she had nothing waiting for her at home. No warm fire, no hot meal, no one to welcome her. So she walked through the rain, letting the water run down her body, not caring if she was wet. The streets were mostly empty now. Everyone had found shelter. The only sounds were the rain hitting the ground and the distant hum of the city. I walked with her head down, her forearms wrapped around herself, her mind far away. Then she heard it, a small sound almost lost in the noise of the storm, a soft cry, a whimper. I stopped. Her empathic senses, which had been quiet for so long, suddenly woke up. She felt something. Pain, fear, loneliness, and underneath all of that, something else. Something that made her heart beat faster. It felt like a child. She turned her head, trying to find where the feeling was coming from. It was close, very close. She walked toward a narrow alley between two old buildings. The alley was dark and full of shadows. Rain poured down from broken gutters above. At the end of the alley, behind a large waste bin, she saw movement. I moved slowly, carefully. She did not want to scare whoever was hiding there. As she got closer, she saw a small figure pressed against the wall, a human child, a little girl. The girl was tiny, maybe 5 or 6 years old. She was wearing thin clothes that were soaked through with rain. Her dark hair was stuck to her face. Her skin was pale, and she was shaking so hard that I could hear her teeth clicking together. Her eyes were closed, and tears were mixing with the rain on her cheeks. A's heart broke in that moment. She knew that feeling. She knew what it was like to be alone and afraid, with no one to help, no one to care. She had felt that way every day since she came to Earth. She crouched down slowly, folding her long legs beneath her. The girl must have heard her because she opened her eyes. For a moment they just looked at each other. The alien with pale blue scales and 4 arms. The human child with dark eyes and trembling lips. I waited for the scream. She waited for the fear. Humans often reacted badly when they saw her kind up close. Children especially. They had been taught that aliens were strange and scary. They would cry and run away. But this girl did not scream. She did not run. She just looked at her with those big dark eyes and her face changed. The fear melted away. In its place came something that looked almost like wonder. "Are you an angel?" the girl whispered. A's translator device clicked softly as it worked on the word. Angel. She knew this human concept. Angels were beings of light and protection. They helped people in trouble. They watched over the innocent. I almost laughed. Her, an angel, she was broken and empty. She had nothing to offer anyone. "No," she said softly. Her voice was rough from lack of use. "I am not an angel. I am just someone who heard you crying." The girl studied her for a long moment. Then she sniffed and wiped her nose with her wet sleeve. "My name is," she said. "I am lost. I do not know how to get home." I felt the girl's emotions flowing into her. Grief deep and old, hunger that had lasted for days, fear of the dark, of the rain, of being alone. But underneath all of this pain, there was something that surprised her. There was trust. This tiny human child, cold and scared and lost, was looking at a strange alien creature and trusting her completely. I extended one of her hands slowly. Her fingers were longer than human fingers, and her pale blue scales shimmered with rainwater. She expected the girl to pull away. Instead, reached out and took her hand. The touch sent a shock through A's body. It had been so long since anyone had touched her, so long since she had felt the warmth of another living being. His hand was small and cold and wet, but it held onto A's fingers with surprising strength. "I am A," she said. "Will you let me help you?" Nodded. "Yes, please," she said in a small voice. "I am very cold." I stood up slowly, still holding the girl's hand. Without thinking, she took off her outer coat and wrapped it around small shoulders. The coat was huge on her. It hung down past her knees like a blanket. "Come with me," I said. "We will find somewhere warm. We will find someone who can help you get home." She started walking out of the alley and walked beside her. The girl's hand never let go of A's. Even when they reached the main street, even when other people stared at them, even when the rain finally began to slow down, held on tight. And something strange happened inside her, something she had not felt in a very long time. A tiny spark of warmth appeared in the cold, empty place where her heart used to be. She had felt dead inside for so long. She had been ready to give up. But now, holding this small human hand, feeling this small human trust, she felt something stir inside her. It was not hope, not yet. It was too soon for hope. But it was something. And after so many months of nothing, something was enough. Brought to the emergency station in District 14. It was a small building with bright lights and tired workers. She walked through the door holding the child's hand, and everyone stopped to stare. An alien bringing in a human child was not something they saw every day. A man behind the desk looked up from his computer. His name tag said Officer Park. He had gray hair and tired eyes, and I could feel waves of exhaustion coming from him. He had been working too long. He had seen too much. "Another one," he said quietly, almost to himself. Then he looked at A. "Where did you find her?" "In an alley near the recycling plant," I said. "She was alone in the rain. She says her name is and she is lost." Officer Park typed something into his computer. His face became sad as he read the screen. "Age 6. Parents died in the Seoul bombing 2 years ago. She was in the foster care system." He paused and rubbed his eyes. "She ran away from her placement 3 days ago. We have been looking for her." I looked down at the little girl, was still holding her hand. She had not let go since the alley. "She has no family?" I asked. "No, no one." Officer Park's voice was flat. "We have too many children like her. The war made many orphans. We try to find homes for them, but there are not enough families, not enough resources, not enough anything." "What will happen to her now?" "We will put her in a group home tonight. Tomorrow, we will try to find another foster family." He did not sound hopeful. "The system is broken. We do our best, but we fail them over and over again." I felt some emotions spike. Fear, panic. A silent scream of "No, please, not again." The child's grip on her hand became. A heard herself speak before she could think about the words. "May I stay with her tonight until you find her a placement?" Officer Park looked at her for a long moment. She could feel him studying her, trying to understand why an alien refugee would offer to help a human child. Everything about this situation was unusual, maybe illegal, definitely against the rules. But Officer Park was tired, and somewhere underneath all that exhaustion, he was still a good man who cared about children. "One night," he said finally, "I will come to your housing unit in the morning to check on her." A nodded. She filled out some papers, she gave her address, and then she walked out of the station with still holding her hand. Her apartment had never felt so small. She looked around at the bare walls, the simple sleeping mat, the tiny kitchen with only nutrient paste in the cupboard. This was no place for a child. But did not seem to mind. She looked around with curious eyes, taking in everything. She touched A's few belongings with gentle fingers. She asked questions in her small voice. "Is this where you live? Do you live alone? What is that thing on the shelf? Can I sit on the mat?" I answered each question patiently. "Yes, this is my home. Yes, I live alone. That is a memory stone from my world. Yes, you may sit wherever you like." She heated up some nutrient paste and put it in a bowl for. The girl ate 3 bowls without stopping. She must have been very hungry. I watched her eat and felt something strange in her chest. It took her a moment to realize what it was. She was happy. For the first time in 2 years, she was happy. After dinner, yawned and rubbed her eyes. She was exhausted. I helped her lie down on the sleeping mat and covered her with a blanket. "Will you stay with me?" asked in a sleepy voice. "Yes," I said, "I will be right here." Closed her eyes. Within minutes she was asleep. I sat beside her all night. She watched the child breathe. She felt the warmth of her small body. She sensed the steady pulse of trust and peace coming from his dreaming mind. For the first time since her world burned, I did not wish to die. Morning came, but Officer Park did not come with it. Instead, I received a message on her communication device. The group home was full. Placement was delayed. Could she keep the child for another day, maybe 2? Days turned into a week turned into a month. The authorities seemed to forget about the little girl in the alien's apartment. They were busy with bigger problems. More refugees arriving, more children in need. One small girl staying with one quiet alien was not important enough to notice. I did not remind them. She did not ask questions. She simply kept caring for. She registered for the local school. A kind teacher named helped her fill out the papers. She found a second job cleaning offices at night so she could buy real food for, human food, vegetables and rice and meat and fruit, the kind of food a growing child needed. She learned how to braid human hair, taught her, showing her how to twist and weave the dark strands. A's 4 arms made the work easy once she understood the pattern. She learned human songs, would sing them at bedtime and I would listen. Then she would try to sing along and would laugh at her strange accent. She answered hundreds of questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do you have 4 arms? Why do some people look at you with mean faces? That last question was hard. I tried to explain about fear and misunderstanding, about how people sometimes hate what they do not know, about how the war had made everyone tired and scared. But just shook her head. "They are silly," she said firmly. "You are the nicest person I know." And I felt that warm spark in her chest grow a little bigger. She was not just existing anymore. She was not just waiting to die. She had a purpose again. She had someone who needed her. She had a reason to live. The first time called her mom was an accident. They were at the market, walking between stalls full of vegetables and fruits, held onto one of A's hands while looking at everything with wide eyes. The market was busy and loud, full of people talking and sellers shouting about their goods. Saw a toy at one of the stalls. It was a small stuffed animal shaped like a dolphin. The fabric was soft and blue, and its eyes were made of shiny black buttons. Stopped walking and stared at it. "Mom, can I have?" She stopped suddenly. Her eyes went wide with fear. Her hands started to shake. "I mean, I am sorry. I did not mean to say that. I felt the wave of panic coming from the child. Was scared. She thought she had done something wrong. She thought I would be angry. I knelt down slowly, bringing herself to height. She wrapped all four of her arms around the trembling girl and held her close. She said softly, "You did nothing wrong. But I called you. I should not have. You are not really my." "Listen to me." I pulled back so she could look into his eyes. "You may call me whatever you wish. If you want to call me that is good. If you want to call me Mom, that is also good. I am here. I am not going anywhere. Do you understand?" His lower lip trembled. Tears started to fall down her cheeks. "Do you mean it?" she whispered. "Do you really mean it?" "I have never meant anything more in my whole life." Threw her arms around A's neck and held on tight. People in the market stared at them. An alien with blue scales hugging a crying human child was a strange sight, but it did not care about the stares. She only cared about the small body in her arms and the love she felt flowing between them. That night after was asleep, I sat at her small table and thought about the future. She had been living day by day, not making plans, not thinking ahead. But she could not do that anymore. Deserved better than uncertainty. Deserved a real home, a real family. I opened her communication device and searched for information. What she found surprised her. There were laws on Earth that allowed aliens to adopt human children. It was rare. It was difficult, but it was possible. She started the application that very night. The process was long and hard. There were forms to fill out, questions to answer, background checks to pass. I had to prove that she had a stable job, a safe home, and enough money to care for a child. She had to take classes about human child development. She had to meet with social workers who asked endless questions about her past and her plans for the future. Some of the officials were kind. They could see that I loved and that loved her back. They tried to help. But some of the officials were not kind at all. They did not like the idea of an alien raising a human child. They looked at her with cold eyes and asked difficult questions. "How can you understand human emotions? You are not human. What if your alien biology harms her somehow? Would it not be better for her to be with her own kind?" I answered every question calmly and honestly. She explained about empaths. She showed them medical reports proving that her biology was safe for humans. She talked about the bond she had formed with, the trust they had built, the love they shared. But the hardest question came from herself. It was a quiet evening. They were sitting together on the sleeping mat, looking out the window at the city lights. Had been very quiet all day. I could feel something heavy in her emotions, something the child was struggling with. Finally spoke. "Oh, can I ask you something?" "You can ask me anything." "Why do you want to be my mom?" The question hit her like a physical blow. She felt the doubt and fear underneath it, was scared that this was all temporary, that one day I would leave her just like everyone else had left her. I took a deep breath. "When I came to Earth," she said slowly, "I was very broken. My whole world had been destroyed. Everyone I loved was gone. I thought there was no reason for me to keep living. I was ready to give up." Listened with serious eyes. "Then I found you in that alley. You were cold and scared and alone, but when you looked at me, you were not afraid. You trusted me. You took my hand." A's voice became thick with emotion. "That was the first time in 2 years that anyone touched me. The first time anyone needed me. You saved my life. You gave me a reason to keep going." Tears were falling down A's face now. Her silver eyes glowed brightly in the dim room. "I want to be your mom because you are the best thing that ever happened to me. Because when I look at you, I see hope. I see love. I see a future worth living for. I want to be your mom because I cannot imagine my life without you in it. Climbed into A's lap and wrapped her small arms around her neck. I love you, Mom, she whispered. I love you too, my little one, more than all the stars in all the galaxies. They held each other for a long time, two broken souls who had found each other in the rain and built something beautiful together. The next morning, A received a message. The final hearing for the adoption had been scheduled. In 3 months, a judge would decide if A could legally become mother. Everything they had hoped for came down to this. One hearing, one decision, one moment that would change both of their lives forever. A was scared, but she was also ready to fight, for she would do anything, for she would face the whole world. And she would not stop until that little girl was truly, legally, forever her daughter. The courtroom was cold and formal. A sat at a wooden table with her legal helper, a young woman named who had taken her case for free, believed in them. She had worked day and night to prepare for this hearing. Sat in the front row behind them. She was wearing her best dress, a yellow one with small flowers. Her dark hair was neatly braided, the braids that I had made for her that morning with careful fingers. On the other side of the room sat the people who wanted to stop the adoption. There were officials from Child Protection Services. There were doctors who studied alien biology. There were even some politicians who had come to make speeches about keeping humans and aliens separate. The judge entered the room. She was an older woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Judge, and she had been deciding family cases for over 30 years. Everyone stood up when she came in, then sat down again when she took her seat. We are here today to decide the matter of adoption, Judge said. The petitioner, of the people, seeks to legally adopt the child known as, let us hear from all parties. The opposition went first. A man in a gray suit stood up and spoke for a long time. He said that alien adoption was dangerous and untested. He said that it could not understand human needs because she was not human. He said that Earth's resources should go to Earth's children first. A doctor stood up and talked about empaths. She said that A's ability to sense emotions might harm development. She said that human children needed human parents. A politician stood up and talked about the importance of tradition. He said that families should look like families. He said that an alien and a human child was not a real family. I listened to all of this with a heavy heart. She could feel fear growing behind her. The child was scared that these powerful people would take her away from the only person who had ever truly loved her. Then it was turned to speak. Your Honor said, I could show you documents and studies and expert opinions. I could argue about laws and policies, but instead, I want to show you something much more important. I want to show you the truth. She turned to the doors at the back of the courtroom. Please come in. The doors opened, and A's eyes filled with tears. Children walked into the room, human children, classmates from school. There were 12 of them, and they walked in quietly and sat in the rows behind. Each of them was holding a piece of paper. These children have spent the past months watching us, said. They have seen her pick up from school. They have seen her help with homework. They have seen her attend every parent meeting, every school event, every important moment in her daughter's life. They have written letters to this court. One by one, the children stood up and read their letters. Mom is very nice. She always has snacks for us after school. Helped me when I fell down on the playground. She was very gentle. She looks different, but she is just like my mom. She loves very much. I wish my mom hugged me like a hugs. I was crying openly now. She had not known about this. She had not known that these children, these human children, had been watching her all along. But the surprises were not over. The doors opened again, and this time aliens walked in, refugees from District 14, beings from many different worlds. Some of them I had never spoken to, others she only knew by sight, but they all came and they all sat down, filling the room with their presence. They did not speak. They did not need to. Their presence said everything. They were there to support one of their own, to show the court that love was not limited to one species. Finally, called to the witness stand. The little girl walked up slowly. She looked so small in the big chair. Her feet did not reach the floor, but her eyes were clear and her voice was steady. Judge looked at her kindly. She said, "Can you tell me why you want to live with us?" Was quiet for a moment, then she began to speak. "Before I found me, nobody wanted me. I was always in the way. People looked at me like I was a problem, like I was something they had to deal with." She paused. Never looked at me like that. She looked at me like I was a gift. The courtroom was completely silent. "She is not from Earth," continued. "She does not look like me. She has blue scales and 4 arms and her eyes glow in the dark, but she loves me, and I love her. And that is what family is, right? It is not about where you come from. It is not about what you look like. It is about who stays. It is about who loves you even when things are hard." She looked directly at Judge. She always stays. She is my mom, and I do not want anyone else." Judge took off her glasses and wiped her eyes. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion. "In all my years as a judge, I have seen many cases. I have seen humans hurt each other in terrible ways. But today, I have seen something different. I have seen love that does not care about species or skin or the number of arms a person has. I have seen a child who knows exactly what she needs and a mother who gives it to her without question." She looked at her. "You came to Earth as a refugee, broken and alone. You had lost everything. But when you found a child who needed you, you did not turn away. You rebuilt yourself around her. You became the mother she needed. That is not alien. That is the most human thing I have ever seen." She picked up her gavel. "The adoption is approved." The courtroom exploded with cheers. The children clapped. The refugees made sounds of joy in their own languages, hugged her, and ran into her mother's arms. I held her daughter tight, all 4 arms wrapped around her small body. "I have a mom," whispered. "I have a real mom." "Yes, my little one," said through her tears, "and I have a daughter forever." 3 years later, they opened the Center for Displaced Children. It was Idea, a place where orphaned children of all species could find families, a place where love mattered more than biology. At the opening, a reporter asked what message she wanted to share with the world. Looked at her daughter, now 9 years old and full of joy and purpose. She looked at the building that would help so many children find homes. She looked at the crowd of humans and aliens standing together. "On my world," she said, "we believe that purpose finds you when you are ready. For a long time I thought my purpose died with my people, but I was wrong. My purpose was waiting for me in the rain, in a little girl who asked if I was an angel." She smiled. "I was not an angel, but she taught me how to become one." Grinned up at her. "Mom," she said, "you are being dramatic again." Everyone laughed. And somewhere across the stars, in a place beyond time and space, the spirits of the people smiled down at the daughter they had lost. She had found her way home. Not to a planet, not to a place. Home was a little girl's hand in hers. Home was love. And love, they knew, was the one thing in the universe that could never be destroyed.